Could the Jaguars actually be drafting running back Ashton Genty out of Boise State? There seems to be a lot of chatter, and even the betting sites are starting to kind of catch up to this. So we're going to talk about that. But real quick, what are you guys doing on NFL Draft Night? This Thursday, I will actually be in Jacksonville. Myself and the whole Club Jaguar crew, myself, Jordan DeLuga from Gen Jag, Jason from Jaguars United, will all be at Bottlenose Brewery on Thursday night. We're going to basically live stream the whole entire first round of the NFL draft on location. And there's going to be a fourth mic for you guys. So if you guys want to come up, be a part of the show, you guys can come right up. We'll let you guys talk. We'll listen to you spew some takes, and it's going to be basically an interactive party. So come on over, even if it's just for 15 minutes, grab a pint and have some fun with us. We're definitely excited about it. So with that said, there's a lot of fire about potentially Ashton Genty coming to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And at first, it's something that I ignored. But one thing that kind of piques your interest a lot is when betting sites, when it comes to the odds, start to shift a little bit. Right now, Mason Graham is still the favorite to go to Jacksonville, but the odds are starting to, I guess, get closer to Ashton Genty actually potentially being the pick for the Jaguars at number 5 overall. And when you look at really the prospects in this draft, it feels like, and I'm kind of going off of consensus. I'm not going to try to sit here and spew hot takes and say, oh, well, I actually have Tyler Warren as a blue chip. I'm going off of the NFL consensus, right? Because that generally, it's just how I'm going to cover it on this one. It feels like Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are kind of the two blue chip guys. Actually, no, I meant to say there's 3 blue chip guys: Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and Ashton Genty. But of course, Ashton Genty isn't really projected to be a potentially top 3 non-quarterback taken, just because Genty is a running back, right? So being a running back kind of makes you fall just because the position is less valued. And for that reason, he just might fall a little bit. But with that said, I have also dismissed the Jaguars kind of drafting running back just because I've been always a big fan of like Tony Baselli when he's been on the radio, and he's always just kind of spoke about how like he does not believe in taking a running back in the first round, right? He would say that when he was a TV analyst, media person, right? But then now he's switched into a front office role, and he's gonna be kind of helping the Jaguars build their draft board in some kind of aspect. So if he brings that same kind of like mindset into the building, he was talking about how he wouldn't draft a running back Travis Etienne in the 20s. Why would he want to draft a running back at number 5 overall, like a top 5 pick? I mean, that is very, very high pick. But with that said, there's a lot of experts that have a lot of difference of opinions on a Mason Graham, right? There's some people that say, okay, he is top guy. He's a blue chip guy. There's a big gap between him and the next guy. And there's a lot of analysts that say they don't really like him that much. They kind of feel like he has like a very low ceiling, and you don't want to draft high floor, low ceiling type of players in the top 5. You want to draft guys that are going to change your franchise around, right? You're going to draft guys that will be a noticeable part of your team, and a guy that you're going to be turning around and giving new contracts to, and a guy that you want to retire on your team, right? I mean, we saw 2 of those guys retire in the last couple of years with like Aaron Donald and Zach Martin, right? Pro Bowl players, they drafted them, they never left their team, and they're probably on their way to, Hall of Fame careers. But with that said, if the talent gap between Genty, if they have Genty all the way up there with, Abdul Carter, with Travis Hunter, with those guys, and if the gap between those guys and the next guy, whether it be a Jalen Walker or Will Campbell, whatever you guys like, as a 4th overall player on your board, if the gap is that wide, you want to trade down. But if you don't find a trade back partner, then you probably want to take Ashton Genty, right? Like if he's going to really change the way your team is. And there is a history of like drafting running backs. Like if you look at the running backs drafted in the top 10, we can go ahead and go through a list. Ronnie Brown, Cedric Benson, Cadillac Williams, Reggie Bush, Adrian Peterson, Darren McFadden, CJ Spiller, Trent Richardson. And If you go back all the way to 2015, this is probably like the last 10 years. Todd Gurley, I'd say that was a good pick. Ezekiel Elliott, I would say that is a good pick. Leonard Fournette, I honestly, I think Leonard Fournette was a bust personally. That's hot take. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but just my personal opinion. Only in the NFL for 6 years. Then Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Bijan Robinson. So really, in the last 10 years, I would say only Leonard Fournette was a miss when it comes to drafting a running back in the top 10. And a lot of people say, like, you can't draft an Ashton Genty to the Jaguars because of the Jaguars' offensive line. And, the best example you look at is a Saquon Barkley, right? Saquon Barkley, when he was with the Giants, never really had that good of an offensive line. And then when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they had an incredible offensive line. And then all of a sudden, Saquon Barkley looked like a completely different running back. And if you look at the way the Jaguars' offensive line is currently constructed, the offensive line is probably more like the New York Giants than it is the Philadelphia Eagles, right? So you're in a situation of, if you like, how comfortable do you feel about the offensive line? Walker Little was re-signed by Trent Baalke, right? Anton Harrison, I imagine they probably feel decent about Anton Harrison, I would say. But how about Ezra Cleveland, your left guard? I mean, he was in Minnesota when offensive coordinator Grant Udinski was there, and they shipped him off for a day 3 pick, right? You went and signed Senator Robert Hainsey and right guard Patrick McCarry this free agency without even giving them like all that much money. So is it smart right now to take a running back if you don't feel like your offensive line is necessarily built, or do you have an actual plan for how you're going to build the offensive line? And I do give credit. One thing about Liam Cohen, when he actually looked at his offense with the running game, I mean, he generated a lot of rushing yards through a lot of misdirection and really manufacturing stuff. And, last year, Doug Peterson was just kind of asleep at the wheel, right? It was just like he was collecting paychecks and he didn't want to be there. So, like, what did the Jaguars do? They pass up on someone that they feel might be a generational running back because they don't feel like the front 5 is good enough? Or do you take that guy and then you work on building the offensive line? It's a very interesting question. So what would I do versus what I want? Because these are actually two different things. If I'm the GM, I'm probably drafting Mason Graham because I do like Mason Graham, and I think that adding him to a defensive line will elevate everybody else's play. Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker. I mean, you saw the 2 times Patrick Mahomes has lost in a Super Bowl. It's been when he hasn't been able to breathe in the pocket, right? And the AFC South runs through Patrick Mahomes. And, my goal isn't to win the AFC South. My goal is to win the Super Bowl. So I would like to be able to build up this defensive line to be able to get after the quarterback. But what do I want? I'll be honest with you. I have 100% trust in this front office until they give me a reason not to trust them. Like, I think we have a bunch of smart people in the building. I really like what we have going on here. So with that said, I kind of want to draft Ashton Genty because I personally think that if they draft him, they have a true plan. They're going to probably start loading up on wide receiver and defensive linemen. On day 2, day 3, they have a clear vision of what they potentially want. And if you're going to tell me that the Jaguars could potentially have, Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., Ashton Genty, I mean, you have probably a top 10 wide receiver and a top 10 running back on, week 1 of the NFL. And, that's adding a lot of firepower to your offense. That would be really exciting to me. So that's what I kind of want because, like I said, I trust them. And I'm like, okay, let's see what else we do. And it's a hard conversation because, like, would we not draft Ashton Genty because it's a deep running back class? Well, it's also a deep defensive tackle draft as well. So it's very confusing. I'll be honest, I hate the position that we're in right now. We shouldn't have swept the Titans. If we had just gone 1-on-1 against the Titans, we'd have the number 1 overall pick. Okay, then we can talk about trading back. All these teams, there's one quarterback in this draft. All these teams would want to trade up for Cam Ward. We'd be able to trade back a pick or 2 and get all these different draft capital and still get a Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. But we're not in that situation. We're at number 5. I feel like it's a weird spot right now. I don't think it's a great spot, but it is a spot that we're given, so we were going to have to work with it. So with that said, we'll see what the Jaguars wind up doing. And I'm excited for the draft. I hopefully see you guys on Thursday. This is the first actual like meetup I was about to say fan meetup, but I don't really consider you guys fans. I'm just a normal person. Subscriber meetup, I should say. So hopefully I can see a bunch of you guys there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So with that said, let me know what you think. Am I crazy? Do you want Mason Graham? Do you want Ashton Genty? Are you kind of like me? If you were GM, would you take Mason Graham? But are you kind of pulling a lot of your faith in this front office and kind of want the shiny, flashy Ashton Genty? It's a good conversation to have. With that said, let me know your thoughts. Appreciate you guys watching. Go Jags.